Okay, let's just jump right in. We live in a world where, the word patriarchy is just everywhere.
It's the background noise.
It's the background noise of the whole culture. It's on the news, in movies, it's probably in your HR manual at work.
Right.
And the idea is, it's simple. Men run everything, they rig the game, and women are, well, the oppressed class. But what if, and you just have to stay with me on this, what if that whole story isn't just a little bit wrong?
What if it's 180 degrees backward?
Exactly.
That is the provocative, maybe even explosive idea we're digging into today. We're doing a deep dive into the ebook, Female Supremacist Empire, Lies, Deceit, Emotional Terror, and Cry-Bullying. The author is Conrad Riker.
And you have to say right up front, this is not a light read.
Oh, not at all. This is a red pill to manifesto. It's really positioned as a tactical battle plan for men who feel like the modern world is, actively working against them.
Yes. Riker's whole argument is that we don't live in a patriarchy. He actually calls it a gynocracy.
A gynocracy. So, a society run by women, for women.
And where men are basically treated as disposable, as, utilities.
It's a fascinating and, for a lot of people, a really shocking way to look at the world.
And before we get too deep into this, and believe me, we are going deep, I just want to ask you, our listener, to go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button right now. If you want us to keep bringing you these kinds of deep dives, into controversial topics the mainstream won't touch, we really need your support. So just take a second and click that button.
Absolutely. And, just to frame this conversation is really, for those of you who are interested in men's rights, maybe the manosphere.
Or just anyone curious about the history of our institutions.
Right, and how they've allegedly been captured by, well, what Riker calls feminist and Marxist ideologies.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about financial enslavement, a legal system Riker says is rigged, and something he calls the Phoenix Protocol.
For reclaiming power.
It's going to be an ultra-long, incisive, and I think a really fascinating look at the data he presents.
And we should say we can only scratch the surface here.
Oh, for sure. If this stuff resonates with you, or if you just want to see the raw data for yourself, you should know that Female Supremacist Empire is available right now on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
Right. Think of this as a taste. If you want the full battle plan, you got to buy the book.
Okay, so let's start with that main idea, the gynocracy. How does he even begin to argue against what we all think we know?
Well, he starts with what he calls the patriarchy paradox.
The paradox.
Yeah, his logic is pretty straightforward. He says, look, if men were really in charge of a system designed to benefit them, they're doing a historically bad job of it.
Okay.
And he points to workplace fatalities as, like, the primary piece of evidence.
This is the glass cellar idea, right? We always hear about the glass ceiling.
Exactly. Everyone talks about the glass ceiling preventing women from getting into boardrooms.
Yeah.
But Riker says, well, nobody talks about the glass cellar.
The dangerous jobs.
The most dangerous jobs. He uses CDC data showing that 93% of people who die at work are men.
93%.
Yeah. These are the guys in the sewers, on the oil rigs, loggers, deep sea fishermen.
And his point is that you see this big push for, 50-50 representation in a nice air-conditioned office.
Right.
But you don't hear a lot of clamoring for equal representation in high-voltage line repair.
Precisely. He argues men are only privileged in their right to die for society's comfort.
Yeah.
And this leads to another one of his theories, which he calls feminist Schrodinger's man.
I love that metaphor. It's from quantum physics.
It is. So Schrodinger's cat is both alive and dead. Well, Riker's Schrodinger's man is also two contradictory things at once.
Okay, what are they?
On the one hand, he's a bumbling, incompetent idiot. The dad in every sitcom who can't operate a washing machine.
Sure, the doofus dad trope.
But at the very same time, he is also this hyper-competent, oppressive tyrant who secretly runs the entire world with an iron fist.
So you're a moron and a monster.
At the same time. And he says the contradiction is useful. It lets society mock men for being useless, while also justifying new laws to control their so-called tyranny.
That's a powerful framework. But, the place where the book really shifts gears is when it gets to the legal system.
The legal slaughterhouse. That chapter on marriage minefield, it was.
Wow. It's heavy. He does not see a marriage license as a romantic document.
Not even a little bit. He calls it a surrender document, a seizure order.
A seizure order.
Yeah. He argues that when you sign it, you are voluntarily giving the state the power to walk into your life and just redistribute your assets whenever it wants.
And he's got the numbers to back that claim up, doesn't he?
He does. He pulls from the U.S. Census Bureau, claiming men pay something like 97% of all alimony.
97%.
But the key stat for his theory is that women initiate roughly 80% of all divorces.
So his argument is that the system actually incentivizes women to leave.
He sees it as a kind of cash-out mechanism. He talks about this massive wealth transfer, where men lose, on average, between 63 and 72% of their net worth after a divorce.
It's one thing to see the percentages, it's another to read the stories he includes. That one about Robert from Florida.
Oh, that one was brutal.
Yeah. So this guy, Robert, he loses his job, he falls behind on his alimony, and the court puts him in jail.
Literally cages a man for being poor.
Right. But the detail that just sticks with you is that, according to Riker, his ex-wife had used $15,000 of his previous payments to get liposuction.
It's a visceral image, isn't it? A man in a cell for being broke, while the money he owed went to cosmetic surgery.
He calls it state-sponsored plunder.
And then there's the other case, Dr. Robert S. in California.
Oh, man, he was ordered to pay, what, $134,000 a month?
A month. And Riker's point with these extreme examples is that the system isn't about need, it's about maximum extraction.
But it's not just the money, is it? It's the presumption of guilt. He talks about the Duluth model.
Yeah. And this is critical to his whole argument about the justice system.
I think most guys have never even heard of it.
Probably not. The Duluth model is a framework that's used in a lot of places for domestic violence calls. And Riker says it's built on a sociological theory that all domestic violence comes from patriarchal power.
So the man is the aggressor by default?
That's the argument. The police are often trained to identify the male as the primary aggressor. So say you're a man, you're being attacked. You call 911 for help.
You're the one who could get arrested.
He contends that yes, when the police show up, even if you have injuries, you are statistically more likely to be the one taken to jail. The system presumes you're guilty because of your gender.
That's terrifying. And then you get to the paternity issue, which he calls state-sponsored cuckoldry.
He brings up the story of a man he calls Robert in Texas. Paid child support for 12 years.
Okay.
Then a DNA test proves conclusively that the kids are not his.
So the payments stop.
The court forced him to keep paying.
What? Why?
Because he had acted as the father.
Yeah.
And Riker's take is that this is the state forcing a man to finance another man's children against his will, just so the state doesn't have to foot the bill.
It paints this picture of a system where if you're a man, the deck is stacked against you. But he says this all starts much, much earlier than marriage.
Oh, yeah.
He says the war on men begins when they're boys, in school.
This is the whole war on boys section. Riker's argument is that our schools have basically pathologized normal masculinity.
Like what kind of behavior?
Fidgeting, being competitive, roughhousing, all the things little boys tend to do are now labeled toxic or, a disorder.
So the classroom is designed for girls, basically.
He argues it's designed for sitting still and verbal processing, which favors female development, and it actively penalizes how boys naturally learn and develop.
And the ADHD stats he uses are, well, they're pretty shocking when you see them in this context.
Aren't they? He says 75% of all ADHD diagnoses are boys. And he calls the medication they're given chemical castration. Wow. His point is we're taking high-energy boys with a biological need to move and compete, and we're just drugging them into being quiet and compliant.
Breaking their spirit.
Before they even hit high school.
Yeah.
And if they get through all that and make it to college, then they face the Title IX tribunals.
Which he calls campus witch hunts.
Because they often operate without basic due process. No cross-examination, sometimes no right to have your lawyer in the room with you.
He brings up the Duke lacrosse case, which everyone remembers.
Right, where the players were eventually proven innocent. But he also talks about Mattress Girl, Emma Sulkovich at Columbia.
Yeah, she carried that mattress around campus as an art project.
To protest a student she accused of assault. But Riker points out that the student she accused was cleared, both by the university and by the police. He was found innocent.
But his reputation was destroyed.
While she got course credit and awards for the protest, he uses that as a prime example of a system where a mere accusation is treated like a conviction, but only if you're a man.
It's that guilty until proven innocent idea, but applied to just one gender. And he even connects this to, of all things, healthcare.
He calls it health disparity denial. He points to the huge funding gap between, say, breast cancer research and prostate cancer research even though they have similar death rates.
But the darkest number has to be the suicide rate.
It is. Men die by suicide at a rate 3.9 times higher than women.
3.9 times.
And Riker's argument is that society's reaction to this is basically a collective shrug. If it were the other way around, it would be a national crisis.
And then there's the ultimate trump card for inequality. The draft.
The selective service. It's the elephant in the room, isn't it? Despite all the talk about equality, only men have to register. Only men can be fined or jailed for refusing.
He calls it cherry-picking martyrdom.
I mean, his point is that feminists fought for combat roles to get the glory, but they're completely silent when it comes to the obligation of the draft.
So you've got legal system, education, healthcare, but he goes even deeper. He gets into biology.
Right. He argues a lot of this conflict is because we're ignoring basic evolutionary psychology. He leans on the work of David Buss, and the core concept he focuses on is hypergamy.
Which is basically dating up.
Correct. Riker's argument is that biologically, women are driven to seek partners with resources and status. They want to date across or up the social hierarchy. And this creates a huge problem with the modern advice given to men.
You mean the advice to be vulnerable?
Exactly. He calls it the vulnerability trap.
I think a lot of guys listening might feel this one. Society's telling you, open up, it's okay to cry, but Riker says that's a trap.
He argues that while women might say they want a vulnerable man, their deep biological programming recoils from it. He claims that when a man actually shows weakness, female attraction just plummets because they're wired to desire competence and dominance.
And he's got data for this too, right? The Tinder stats?
The swipe stats. He cites the data point that women, on average, swipe right on only the top 5 to 10% of male profiles.
You top 10%.
So he describes modern dating as a battlefield where the average guy is just completely invisible. You have 80 to 90% of women all competing for that top tier of men, which leaves the vast majority of men with, well, nothing.
And this is where he reframes testosterone too. We're so used to hearing toxic masculinity. But Riker calls testosterone the rocket fuel of civilization.
He does. He argues that testosterone-fueled drive to compete, to build, to explore is what created the entire modern world. The skyscrapers, the power grids, the internet. And he says that trying to suppress that isn't progress, it's cultural suicide.
Okay, so he's painted a really bleak picture. You're legally vulnerable, financially targeted, educationally suppressed, and biologically invisible unless you're in the top 10%. It sounds pretty hopeless.
It does. But that's where the book makes hard pivot. This is where the battle plan comes in.
The Phoenix Protocol.
The counterattack blueprint. He isn't just diagnosing the problem. He's offering a strategy for men to basically opt out of a game he says is rigged.
And a huge piece of that strategy is MGTOW.
Men going their own way. And Riker frames this not just as a lifestyle choice, but as a completely rational response to extreme legal risk.
So if marriage is a seizure order,
the only logical move is to refuse to sign the contract. No marriage. He even advises against cohabitation, especially in places with common law marriage.
It's a full withdrawal.
It is. He says men should find their purpose in brotherhood, in their work, in hobbies, and stop defining their worth by female validation.
And then he gets into the really tactical stuff, the financial sovereignty part.
Yeah, this is where it gets very practical. He talks about building financial foxholes.
What does that mean?
Using things like privacy-focused crypto Monero Bitcoin to keep your assets out of the reach of, say, a divorce court. He talks about offshore trusts. It's basically advising men to go galt.
Go galt, like from Atlas Shrugged, to stop the motor of the world.
That's the idea. Riker suggests that if men collectively withdrew their labor, their taxes, and their participation from the system, the Janocracy would just collapse on itself.
He also mentions building parallel economies.
Right. Moving to platforms that won't deplatform you. Using Substack, Rumble, building those strong male networks. He even brings up jury nullification.
Which is what exactly?
Men on a jury refusing to convict another man under a law they believe is unjust or anti-male.
And then maybe the most extreme piece of advice, the vasectomy portfolio.
It is extreme, but it's consistent with his logic. He sees a man's ability to reproduce as a huge financial liability in this legal climate.
Because one mistake can lead to 18 years of payments.
Or one act of paternity fraud. So he advises men to get vasectomies, to lock the gate. He frames it as the ultimate form of asset protection.
So it's really a total rejection of the traditional life script?
That's the message. The script of get a job, get married, have kids, provide. He's saying that entire script is a trap designed to enslave you. He claims the book is armor against these emotional terror tactics.
And a guide to reclaiming power by just refusing to play.
And returning to a meritocracy.
Yeah.
But he argues that can only happen when men stop apologizing for being men.
It's definitely a perspective you are not going to hear on the evening news. It really forces you to question some of the basic assumptions our society runs on.
It forces you to look at the numbers, the suicide rates, the workplace deaths, the divorce stats, and to really ask, does the story we're being told actually match the reality on the ground? Riker's work? Well, it demands you ask who really holds the power.
And who's paying the price.
Exactly.
And look, we've gone through the highlights, but the book itself is just packed with so much more data, more court cases, specific financial strategies we just couldn't get to.
It's a comprehensive manual.
It is. So if you want the full battle plan, if you want to see all the raw data for yourself, you need to go buy Female Supremacist Empire. Lies, deceit, emotional terror, and cry bullying.
It's available right now on Amazon Kindle and on Google Play Books. If this is knowledge you want to arm yourself with, that's where you'll find it.
And for his latest analysis, Riker is very active online. You should follow him at Conrad Riker on Substack and on Twitter. He's always posting new data and connecting his theories to current events.
Definitely a must follow if this conversation resonated with you.
All right, we're going to leave it there. This was a heavy one, but an important one. We hope this deep dive gave you a new lens, at least, to look at the world.
It raises some very uncomfortable, but maybe very necessary questions.
Absolutely. And before you go, please, one last time, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this deep dive with someone you think needs to hear it. It really helps us amplify the truth. Thanks for listening.
Stay strong.